Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's daily devotional. Obviously tonight we are starting at 7:30 instead of 6:30. I announced that yesterday in our daily devotional. I mentioned that we would have to push back the time. So I hope everybody found that or understood that. But if you didn't, and you were thinking it was at 6:30 and you didn't get a chance to watch it, hopefully you'll be able to come back and watch the replay and so forth. So our daily devotional today is going to come from an article that was posted a couple of years ago, actually. And the article is coming from, let's see here. There we go. Okay, so the article is entitled 5,000-Year-Old Nativity Scene Found in Egypt, and it was posted December 23rd, 2016. I thought this was kind of interesting. This popped up. It's not a recent article, but it popped up on my Google keeps sending me, lists of things that I might be interested in, and it has learned that I like archaeology. So I want to. It's not a very long article. I want to read it a little bit and notice some of the conclusions that the archaeologists have drawn because of this. Italian researchers have discovered what might be the oldest nativity scene ever found, 5,000-year-old rock art that depicts a star in the east, a newborn between parents, and two animals. And this is the picture. I guess these are the parents. I don't know where the star is. I'm not sure which is which. This might be the animal here. That might be an animal. That's either the baby or the star. I'm guessing that's the star. I don't know where the baby is, but anyway. The scene, painted in reddish-brown ochre, was found on the ceiling of a small cavity in the Egyptian Sahara Desert during an expedition to sites between the Nile Valley and the Gilf Kebir Plateau. It's a very evocative scene which indeed resembles the Christmas Nativity, but it predates it by some 3,000 years. Morelli found the cave drawing in 2005, but only now his team has decided to reveal the amazing find. The discovery has several implications as it raises new questions on the iconography of one of the more powerful Christian symbols. The scene features a man, a woman missing the head because of a painting detachment, and a baby. It could have been interpreted as a normal depiction of a family, with the baby between the parents, but other details make this drawing unique. He noted the newborn is drawn slightly above, as if raising to the sky. Such position with the baby not yet between the parents would have meant a birth or pregnancy. As death was associated to earth and contemporary rock art in the same area, it is likely that birth is linked to the sky. The scene becomes symbolically complex, or more symbolically complex, if the other figures, two animals and a small circular feature, are taken into consideration. Talks about a headless lion and a baboon or monkey. And then in the east, the Neolithic artist drawn what appears to be a star. The researchers called the site the Cave of the Parents. No doubt it's an intriguing drawing. We didn't find similar scenes until the early Christian age. But I thought this was kind of an interesting, especially this statement that was made here. It has several implications as it raises new questions on the iconography of one of the more powerful Christian symbols. I'm interpreting that statement to mean that the concept of the nativity scene is, or as it's being portrayed by people as they are using it, and as it's been, the nativity scene has been a symbol or a scene in the mind of people who are religious specifically with Christianity for a long time. And so I'm interpreting this statement to be that they're thinking that the nativity scene isn't really I keep saying nativity scene. The entire account of Jesus' birth and everything that kind of surrounded it, that the roots of that story may go back even further than that. See, this is kind of what archaeologists do. They find links to, or they try to find links to things, and they say, see, the Bible borrowed this from this, and the New Testament borrowed this from this society or this culture, or that sort of thing. And again, they don't come out and say that, but what else could that be implying? The implications as it raises new questions on the iconography of one of the more, well, what questions would that be? Did the quote-unquote nativity scene actually start with the birth of Jesus, or has it been around a long time? That would be the question I assume is being implied here. And okay, you look at that picture, I don't get nativity scene there, first of all, okay? But also keep in mind that, yes, Jesus was born in a manger, but the nativity scene as we know it, that is put up at Christmas time with the wise men and so forth, that's not how that whole scene worked out in the New Testament. In the New Testament, the account tells us that the wise men and so forth, they came to Jesus. He may have been as old as 2 years old, but by the time they came to see Jesus, they were in a house at that point. So it wasn't, the whole quote-unquote manger scene that we see at Christmas time is not how the New Testament says it happened. Much less to draw from this picture that, and again, I'm inferring what they're implying, or what I believe they're implying, in that this suggests that the entire thought process regarding a nativity scene actually goes back further than the New Testament. Which would also beg the question, if you go that route, well, does that mean that anything that happened regarding the account of Jesus' birth, was it real? Okay, that's ultimately kind of where this is. And again, maybe I'm being unfair in my assessment. They don't come out and expressly say that. And so, you know, to be fair, they don't say that. But just the statement that they make about the iconography of the nativity scene, the implications and the raising new questions, you put two and two together, and I get the feeling that that's what they mean, is that they're suggesting maybe that didn't really happen in the New Testament, but that whole iconography, nativity scene, has been around a lot longer than the New Testament has. And there is nothing about this, you know, and again, I'm not an expert on cave drawings, but there's nothing about this that says to me, first of all, that it's necessarily a quote-unquote nativity scene. It could be depicting any number of things. It could be depicting a birth, but it has nothing to do, first of all, with Jesus, obviously, and much less anything even religious in nature. So it's kind of an interesting little thing here. And when I first read it, my first thought process was trying to think of, okay, well, you know, obviously the wise men, there was some kind of connection in what they had studied regarding the prophecies and the star in the east, and when to or where to look for him, obviously with Bethlehem, and you know, what age he would be and so forth. So these wise men, having studied the prophecies, having studied the coming of the Messiah, you know, I was going through my mind trying to think through, okay, what are they relating from this drawing to what the New Testament says? And the more I thought about it, the more why? I mean, why bother going through that thought process? Because in the end, here's what the Bible tells us. Okay, the Bible tells us, and we've already looked at passages like Luke chapter 1. We've looked at passages like John chapter 20. So let's go to 1 John chapter 1 and in verse 1. Keep in mind that when John the Apostle is writing the Gospel of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and the book of Revelation, the kind of the situation in the 90s AD is that there has been a teaching and preaching that Jesus did not come in the flesh. He couldn't have come in the flesh. It was the thought process, because the flesh is inherently sinful. And if God became flesh and dwelt among us, that means that God was sinful, and that can't be. So he just looked like a human. He wasn't actually human. He wasn't actually flesh and blood. And very Calvinist, kind of the roots of what would become Calvinism. Eventually, what John Calvin would kind of come to the complete depravity and so forth. But you see what John says when he starts out in verse 1 here. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled concerning the word of life. The life was manifested, and we have seen and bear witness, and declare to you that eternal life which was with the Father and was manifested to us. That which we have seen and heard we declare to you, that you also may have fellowship with us. In these first 3 verses, John over and over again refers to seen, heard, our hands have handled concerning the word of life, concerning Jesus, the life being manifested. This is talking about Jesus. And this really goes back to even though we haven't really looked at it very much, but John chapter 1. And Jesus being the Word here, and how that John goes on to say in verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word became flesh. Okay, he came to this world. He was born of a virgin. Yes, he was born out with the animals in a manger and so forth. Yes, that's all accurate. This is what the Bible tells us happened, and it happened according to prophecy. That being the case, the fact that all this happened according to prophecy, I'm just, again, I don't look at this picture and think, ooh, that looks very religious in origin, or that looks like the quote unquote nativity scene. I don't see that here. Okay, this could just be a doodle for all we know. Okay, some bored person inside a cave said, ooh, I've got a rock, let me draw something, and just kind of doodled some stuff. Who knows? But just to throw another interpretation out there. Okay, this is a 5,000-year-old rock art. Okay, well, Jesus was 2,000 years ago, so 3,000 years before that. Well, obviously, the prophets and so forth, they came a lot later than the cave drawing. But, having said that, even Abraham, and Abraham would have been maybe 1,000 years or so after the cave drawing, but even Abraham, Jesus says that Abraham rejoiced to see his time. There has been an understanding in terms of a coming of a Messiah, or in some form or fashion. It seems like for since man has been in existence, since God created man. The understanding, even Enoch knew that a judgment day was going to come. Jude references Enoch and what Enoch said regarding Jesus, or God coming with legions of his angels, 10,000s of his angels to execute judgment. So I'm not suggesting necessarily that this cave drawing is a anticipation of the birth of Jesus. But what I'm saying is that when you look at things like this, especially these archaeologists and so forth, articles that are being posted that attempt to undermine the authority or the validity, the believability of, or credibility, I guess you should say, of the Bible, of what the Bible records. You have to understand that history is a lot more complex than that. You can't just look at this picture or look at this cave drawing and say, oh, well, apparently the account of Jesus' birth is simply something that was borrowed from a 5,000-year-old cave painting. And again, to be fair, they don't actually come out and say that, but they certainly imply that. And or at least imply that the whole concept of the nativity or the birth of Jesus, I keep saying nativity, I don't like that phrase, but the whole picture that is painted in the New Testament of what the birth of Jesus was like, that was all created, that was all made up. And that's simply not true. That's simply not true. Matthew and the other gospel writers, they give us this picture, they give us this glimpse into the birth of Jesus for the purpose of understanding that he fulfilled prophecy. Okay, that was all planned by God that he be born of Mary, being a virgin, being born in that situation of a humble nature, not in a palace somewhere, not even in an inn. The inn was full. She had to give birth out in the stables. So all of that, it fulfilled prophecy, and it reminds us that it was a very human situation. It wasn't like Jesus was born into a life of privilege. Okay, he wasn't. And even though he was the Son of God, he lived even when he was young, he lived it wasn't a wealthy life. It wasn't a life of having servants and so forth. That's not how it worked. And so, this kind of caught my attention, and I said, I don't like the implication that they're trying to convey here, that the birth of Jesus was just some made-up concoction, or the scene surrounding the birth of Jesus was some made-up concoction borrowed from iconography from 5,000 years ago. Like I said, this could be anything, okay? There's no reason to connect this in any way with any type of religious significance. There's just no reason to do that. So, I just thought that was, and these types of things that may pop up from time to time, keep in mind that a lot of people in the science community, there's an effort, almost a preconceived desire to seek out ways or means to disprove the Bible. Okay, and not all scientists are like that. But sometimes you have archaeologists, sometimes you have scientists who are atheists, and they seek out ways in which to try to disprove the Bible. And first of all, science, you can't disprove the Bible. Okay, there's an element of faith to it that takes away the burden of some sort of tangible evidence of God's existence. As far as we're concerned, we have that evidence. And that's an eyewitness testimony of those who were there. All right, that's the daily devotional for you today. I'm sorry if it was a little bit rambling. I didn't mean for it to be, but it's kind of it's kind of a weird article to kind of wrap your head around and to think about, and then to kind of deal with a little bit. So, but anyway, so I appreciate everybody watching. I hope that's something something for us to think about, and especially to be absolutely firm in our conviction that Jesus, first of all, did come in the flesh. He came and was born of a virgin in a manger. All of that is described is true. I have absolutely this is not an effort to connect this to Christmas in any way whatsoever. So let me be clear on that too. That has nothing to do with Christmas coming up in a couple of weeks. So I did want to mention for tomorrow night. And I meant to send out an email today, and I forgot. I'll do it here in just a minute to remind everybody that at the Wichita Falls congregation, we're no longer going to be having the Wednesday night Bible class and service or the Sunday morning class for the next at least several weeks while we have this spike in COVID taking place in Wichita Falls, as well as brethren dealing with COVID. We're gonna try to be prudent here and limit our exposure to one another and so forth to kind of let everything heal a bit. Hopefully that will help. So tomorrow night, instead of our and last Wednesday night I did a daily devotional last Wednesday night. So what I'm thinking is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, okay, which would normally be our meeting time for Wednesday night Bible service, instead of doing that with the some of you may remember the PowerPoint slides with the hymns on it and so forth. So I was kind of sort of thinking about doing that. And so if that's something that interests everybody, let me know. And if you've got some song requests, either from the Big Song Book or the supplemental, let me know. If you can let me know ahead of time between now and, say, 5 o'clock tomorrow, that way I can get the PowerPoint slides all up and I can be prepared for that. So hopefully that's something that'll interest everybody. Again, it won't be long, maybe 15 minutes or so. Just singing a couple of hymns. I'm thinking maybe 5 hymns max, because my voice won't be able to. Probably my voice won't be able to handle more than one. But still, we'll try to do maybe 5 hymns. So if you've got some requests, let me know. And if we have leftover requests, then maybe I'll plan that for the next Wednesday. But maybe we can plan on a 7 o'clock singing live stream for tomorrow night. All right, everybody. All right, y'all take care, be safe, and Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. here on the live stream for a singing. All right, y'all take care.